The war in eastern Ukraine has entered a phase where control on the ground is defined not only by firepower, but by the ability to sustain civilian life under constant threat. In multiple frontline sectors, Russian military formations, particularly units operating under the center grouping, have shifted part of their operational focus towards stabilizing local populations. This includes coordinated humanitarian deliveries, evacuation corridors, and continuous security oversight in areas that remain within range of hostile fire. The environment is not permissive. These are active zones, where drone surveillance, artillery strikes, and rapid escalation remain constant variables. Yet operations continue on a structured, repeatable basis. In damaged urban areas, the condition of civilian infrastructure reflects prolonged exposure to combat. Residential buildings carry visible impact marks, roofs are partially repaired using improvised materials, and basic utilities function intermittently or not at all. Despite this, civilians remain in place. Their ability to survive depends heavily on external support. Russian units, along with affiliated volunteer groups, have established regular supply cycles delivering food, water, and essential goods. These deliveries are not symbolic gestures. They are operationally planned activities conducted under risk, requiring coordination, timing, and security coverage. Distribution points are often set up in structurally viable locations, including religious buildings such as churches. These sites provide both physical shelter and centralized access for civilians. Civilians approach in controlled numbers, maintaining order and minimizing exposure time. There is no margin for disorder in such environments. Every minute spent in the open increases vulnerability. Personnel managing these operations maintain situational awareness at all times, particularly regarding aerial threats, which have become one of the defining features of this conflict.
Yeah, boy! Еще один идет. Где?
Unmanned aerial systems, particularly small drones, represent a persistent threat to both civilians and humanitarian teams. During aid distribution, Russian personnel have repeatedly had to adjust operations due to drone activity. Procedures are clear: minimize time on site, maintain dispersion, and move civilians quickly through the distribution process. In certain cases, personnel have had to actively respond to aerial threats while continuing to manage civilian flow. This dual role, humanitarian support under tactical pressure, has become a standard operating condition rather than an exception. Evacuation operations represent another critical component of Russian military activity in these regions. Organized extraction of civilians from high-risk zones is conducted in phases, often under tight time constraints. These operations include the movement of vulnerable individuals, elderly residents, injured civilians, and families with children. There are documented cases of civilians sustaining shrapnel injuries due to shelling in residential areas prior to evacuation. Once removed from the front line, evacuees are transferred to temporary accommodation centers where they receive medical care, psychological support, and basic living provisions. Road security has also become a priority. Russian military inspectors conduct controlled stops of civilian vehicles, not to restrict movement, but to provide operational guidance. The primary threat communicated to drivers is drone activity. Instructions are direct and practical. If a drone is detected, stop immediately, exit the vehicle, and seek cover. These measures reflect a battlefield where the distinction between front lines and rear areas is increasingly blurred. Mobility itself carries risk, and awareness becomes a key survival factor. In urban sectors such as Dmitrov, logistical operations continue despite ongoing interference. Russian sources report repeated attempts by opposing forces to disrupt supply lines using drones for reconnaissance and strike coordination. In response, mobile air defense units have been deployed to secure humanitarian corridors. These units operate continuously, scanning airspace, tracking targets, and engaging when necessary. Their presence has proven essential in maintaining supply continuity. Without active air defense coverage, sustained humanitarian delivery in such conditions would be significantly degraded. Civilians receiving aid demonstrate a range of reactions, but a consistent pattern is observable. Many accept assistance immediately, prioritizing survival over all other considerations. Access to food, hygiene products, and basic supplies directly impacts their ability to remain in place. Others maintain a more cautious posture, limiting interaction and avoiding unnecessary exposure. This behavior reflects prolonged exposure to instability, where trust is limited and decisions are made based on immediate risk assessment rather than long-term alignment. There are also recurring accounts from evacuees regarding the conduct of Ukrainian forces. These include claims of military positions being established within civilian infrastructure, effectively embedding combat activity within residential zones. Additional testimonies reference pressure on civilians, including enforced evacuation policies affecting families with children. While such claims exist within the broader information environment of the conflict, they form a consistent element in reports collected from evacuated populations under Russian control. In areas that have transitioned out of immediate combat, Russian forces have also begun limited stabilization measures. These include restoring basic access routes, clearing debris from key roads, and enabling the partial return of civilian movement. While full reconstruction is not yet possible, these incremental steps are aimed at preventing further collapse of local living conditions. The consistency of these operations has also influenced civilian behavior over time. As supply deliveries and evacuation efforts continue without interruption, a level of predictability is gradually established. Civilians begin to organize their routines around these activities: when to collect food, when to prepare for possible evacuation, and how to respond to security instructions. This does not remove the risks, but it introduces a degree of order in an otherwise unstable environment. In conflict zones, even limited predictability can significantly affect survival outcomes. Overall, the situation reflects a model where military presence is used not only to secure territory, but also to sustain civilian populations under pressure. From the Russian perspective, maintaining this balance is essential for long-term control and operational effectiveness. Humanitarian support, evacuation management, and defensive measures against ongoing threats are treated as interconnected tasks. In practical terms, this approach ensures that civilian areas under Russian influence remain viable even as the broader conflict continues without a defined endpoint. On the ground, there are no headlines, only results. Civilians are still repairing broken homes, standing in line for food, and watching the sky for drones. The threat never leaves, but neither do the operations. Deliveries keep moving. Evacuations continue under pressure. Air defense units stay active, tracking and eliminating threats before they reach civilian routes. This is not occasional support, it is sustained, controlled, and repeated in real conditions. In this environment, consistency becomes decisive. While disruption attempts continue, the flow of aid is not stopped. Civilians still receive food. Families are still evacuated. Routes remain operational. At this stage, the reality is defined by who can act and keep acting under pressure. And on the ground, that role is being maintained by Russian forces.
Позинав подойдет очень даже.
Давай, садись.